Hello and welcome to Oregon City Campus's webinar on the Master of Public Health Practice. We have a pretty short presentation for you today. We're going to ask that you save your questions until the end of that short presentation, just because the way that you can ask questions is by typing them into the chat box. And at the end, we'll have the opportunity to sort through those questions and respond to everybody as quickly as we can. If for some reason we're unable to get to your question during our webinar today, we will respond to you by email with the email that you used to register for this webinar. So don't worry about that. Also, this webinar is being recorded, so you will receive a copy of that recording in about 24 hours after we've ended the webinar. Today, we have a couple of people here that I'd like to introduce you to. We have Amanda Armington, who's the MPH Administrative Director. We have Susanna Chase, the Manager of Graduate Admissions, Applications, and Recruitment with the College of Public Health and Human Sciences. So they're going to talk to you today about the MPH program that we're launching at eCampus this fall. So our classes are starting on September 20th. You may note at the at the bottom of the screen that you can access text captions by copying and pasting that URL into a separate browser. So if you're interested in reading along with us today, you're welcome to do that. So today's agenda is pretty to the point. We are going to provide for you a program overview. We're going to talk about how to apply to this program. I want to share with you a little bit about Oregon State University and eCampus in case you're not too familiar with our institution, and then we'll handle all of the questions and answers that we have at the end. There's also going to be some resources for you so that you can connect with us and follow up, which is a good reminder for me to point out that there are 3 handouts in this webinar. The resources that we provided for you today get into more details about the application process for the program. There is an example course schedule so that you can check out what it might be like to be a current student in this program starting in the fall. And then there's also a few resources that will allow you to follow up with us, as well as point you towards important things like financial aid. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Amanda to share with us a little bit about the program.
Thanks, Amy. Hi, everyone. My name is Amanda Armington, and I am the MPH Administrative Director in the College of Public Health and Human Sciences. To give you a brief background about myself, I'm also a graduate of the MPH program. I graduated in 2012 from the Health Promotion and Health Behavior option. And then I worked in public health research in the college for about 3 years before moving into this role. So we are going to dive right into the program curriculum. The Master of Public Health in Public Health Practice is an interdisciplinary option that is fully online. It is a non-thesis degree, and there is an internship component that is a required part of the curriculum, which means that you will address some of the program's required learning competencies through your internship. Our students complete their internship throughout the country and all over the world, all different types of sectors, so you do have a lot of flexibility to choose an experience that will best suit your career goals. We also have a full-time MPH internship coordinator. His name is Andy Chenard, and he's a tremendous resource to help our students. He can help you identify suitable internship sites and will also be a resource to you throughout the duration of your internship, which is extremely beneficial. The curriculum has a full-time and part-time track. The full-time track is 2 years, and the part-time track can be done in either 3 or 4 years, depending on how many classes you want to take each term. We're on a quarter system at OSU, and our program does not include summer terms, so you would be doing fall, winter, spring, fall, winter, spring. One thing I want to mention is that OSU has a minimum enrollment policy for graduate students, and that means that all graduate students must take at least 3 credits per term, and again, that does not include summer. So that can be important to keep in mind as you're thinking about planning for this degree. You can expect the study commitment to be approximately 3 to 4 hours of studying for every 1 credit hour. So for an example, with a 3-credit course, you could expect 9 to 12 hours of studying per week. Of course, that varies by student, but that gives you a ballpark. So this next slide outlines the course sequence for full-time and part-time tracks. Full-time is on the top and part-time is on the bottom there. The program is structured with courses being built upon prior courses. So we do expect that students will complete the program in this exact sequence. There are a couple of classes that do not have prerequisites, and so those could be taken in a different term, but for the most part, we expect students to take classes in this exact sequence. So to be clear, all of these courses that you see on this slide are the required classes. They make up 60 credit hours. So the only flexibility here is the timing of when you might be able to take a couple of the classes that don't have prerequisites. Also, there are 2 optional electives that are specific to this option. You can see them in the small box that says optional electives. There's linear regression in public health and logistical regression in public health. Those could be really beneficial for somebody who has interest in quantitative analysis. And again, that's on top of the 60 required credit hours. You could also take other OSU online courses as electives. That would be on top of the required 60 credit hours. So for example, if you were interested in health administration, there may be some good classes through the College of Business that you might want to look at. Or if you were interested in food systems, you might find some through the College of Agriculture. So again, that would be solely for your professional development and would not count towards your degree, but can be really beneficial for you as you're considering where you want your career to go. So in this next slide, we outline the learning outcomes or competencies, as we call them, that are specific to the MPH and public health practice. There are also MPH core competencies that all MPH students obtain in addition to these option competencies, and those can be found on our college's website if you're interested in reading those. We've also outlined our faculty members who make up the core team for this option in the next slide here. I'll give you a very brief summary of each faculty member. Adam Branscombe is a professor in biostatistics, and he focuses on medical test evaluation, bone health, and kidney disease. And then we have Sue Carrozza. She's the program director for the public health practice option, so she would be the main faculty contact for this online option. She is an associate professor in epidemiology, and her primary research focus is cancer prevention and control. Next is Jonathan Garcia. He's an assistant professor in global health, and one of his main research interests is health disparities at the intersection of sexuality, gender, and race, both domestically and globally. Veronica Irvin is an assistant professor in health promotion, health behavior, and one of her main research interests is how the manner in which medical and science information is presented can change someone's behavior. And finally, Karen Vollmer is a clinical associate professor in health management and policy. She focuses largely on health plan design, the impact of insurance on healthcare delivery, and legal issues in healthcare financing. So each MPH student, each online MPH student is assigned a faculty advisor, which is the same as our on-campus MPH students, who then advises them throughout the program. So each online MPH student will be assigned one of these 5 primary faculty members as their advisor throughout the program. There are many other faculty members in the college who will also teach, so students will benefit from a wide variety of faculty expertise throughout their program. In addition to the faculty advisor and the MPH internship coordinator, I am another resource for MPH students. I hold group advising sessions, and the point of those is to ensure that students are aware of the paperwork and the deadlines that are required to graduate in a timely manner. I also serve as a main point of contact for students in addition to their faculty advisor. So, for example, if students can't find a resource that they're looking for, or they're not sure what the next deadline is, they can reach out to me for help. And so I will now turn it over to Susanna to talk about the application process.
Fun stuff. Okay, so the deadline to apply for this first cohort of the online MPH, which will start in fall 2018, is May 15th, 2018, so just a couple of weeks. For fall 2019, the application deadlines will be December 1st for the priority deadline and March 1st for the final deadline. So for the application process, There are two parts to the process. First, you'll apply through SOFIS, which is a centralized application processing system, sort of like the Common App for schools of public health. The application process through SOFIS can be lengthy depending on your academic history. You'll need to enter all of your previous coursework by hand or pay them to do it, and then send your official transcripts to SOFIS. So I usually advise people to sacrifice at least one weekend day to getting this done. You'll upload your resume and your statement of purpose directly to SOFIS and enter the names and contact information for at least 3 references. Using that information, SOFIS will solicit the letters of recommendation on your behalf. We do require the GRE for admission. The GRE must be taken before the deadline for which you're applying. So if you're thinking of making that May 15th deadline, you'll need to take it soon. Scores usually take about a week to show up in the SOFIS system, so I would recommend taking the GRE no later than a week prior to the deadline. When you take the GRE, it'll ask which schools you'd like to send your scores to. Be sure to send them to code 0031 at the time of the exam in order to prevent delay. I've already gotten a few emails from people wondering if it's possible to waive the GRE based on work experience, and unfortunately we're not able to do this. The only way to waive the GRE requirement is if you've already earned a master's degree from an accredited U.S. institution. One thing to be aware of with SOFIS is once they receive your official transcripts, they check them against what you've entered by hand in order to verify the application and calculate your GPA. This verification process can take SOFIS up to 4 weeks to complete, but as long as they've received all of your transcripts by the deadline, your application can be reviewed, regardless of whether it's been verified by SOFIS. Once they receive a transcript, they'll scan it into their system, and it'll show up on my end as a PDF, so I can use that to see your GPA. Please note that you'll need to send all official transcripts to SOFIS, so that means if you took one course at a community college, and even if that course shows up on another transcript, you are going to have to send that transcript from the community college into SOFIS. Otherwise, you'll get a notification from SOFIS saying you've been undelivered. Just be aware of that in advance. The second part of the application process is the OSU supplemental application. This is sent out 4 times throughout the admissions cycle, once after each deadline we have in SOFIS. So mid-December, mid-March, mid-April, and for this year only, mid-May. Depending on when you submit your SOFIS application, you'll receive the prompt the next time it's sent. So for example, if you submit your application on December 10th, you've missed the December 1st deadline, but you may get the prompt for the supplemental application when it's sent out in mid-December. So this is a shorter application, and it just aims to collect answers to questions that are federally mandated that we have to ask as a public institution. You don't need to upload any of your documents or resubmit any of the materials you've entered in SOFIS. These will be moved over from SOFIS to the supplemental application within the OSU system. There's no deadline for this supplemental application, but it will need to be filled out and submitted before we're able to give you an official decision on your application.
Great, thank you so much. I have a little bit to share with you about the tuition. Of course, that's a pretty important part of knowing whether or not you can commit to a specific program. So the MPH tuition for this next academic year is $591 per credit. The eCampus tuition includes your the tuition as well as an eCampus fee, which is charged to all eCampus students. That helps us build our courses, pay the instructional designers to do that. And the other expenses that you might think about would be any supplemental textbooks or any other learning things that you might need, such as if you need to buy a laptop, anything like that. You can find our most current tuition rate at the website that we've listed here. It's ecampus.oregonstate.edu/SOC/tuition. Our tuition rates are subject to change. We are a public institution, and so every fall we kind of look to see if there's been a change in our tuition. We're not told when there's going to be a change. We're always just as surprised as our students are. So make sure that you keep an eye on that. Another note for you is that all of our programs that we offer here online are also eligible to receive financial aid. So if you're interested and you're not sure how you're going to be able to pay for your coursework, please do go ahead and check out fafsa.ed.gov. The eligibility requirements for taking out loans are listed there on the website, and you can go ahead and apply for FAFSA right there online. A couple of things to share with you about eCampus. We are a top-ranked online institution. So we are part of Oregon State University. We're not different. Our students are Oregon State University students, but we are the division of Oregon State University that provides programs online. So we have over 50 programs. We've had over 21,000 students worldwide, and I think we've had a couple thousand graduates at this point. But we're fairly highly accredited, and we've been doing online education for quite a while. We've been doing distance education for much longer. We used to do some distance education just through the Postal Service before the internet was a thing. So I know that Amanda had mentioned earlier that we are on a quarter system, and so I just wanted to show you guys this visual here. Quarters means that there's 4 terms every year as opposed to 3, what you would see at a semester school. Our classes last 10 weeks, and then there's usually an additional week for finals. So a term is starting almost every 3 weeks. Of course, there's 1 to 3 week break in between each of the terms. And this specific program is starting in the fall, so we've just highlighted that date there. As you can see, September 20th is when our courses will start. That really summarizes the presentation that we have for you today, so we're going to go ahead and open up the chat here and see if anybody has any questions. It's going to take me just 1 second. Thank you so much. All right, we do have a couple of questions. Somebody's asked, because the FAFSA deadline has already passed for fall of 2018, does OSU have financial aid? So even though the priority deadline for FAFSA has passed, and that was in February, the priority deadline doesn't actually have any impact on graduate student loans. So you would still want to complete the FAFSA. The financial aid year goes from June through July. So you'll want to fill out the application for the 2018-19 school year. And that is definitely still available to you. There's a question about what kind of scholarships are available to students, and what I can share with you about that is that there are always third-party scholarships that students can look up. There's also sometimes college scholarships. Those eligibility requirements for those scholarships partially do require for you to be an admitted and enrolled student. So I would encourage you to move forward with that step of the process before you start looking at the college scholarships. My understanding is that the college-based scholarships for this year have had a deadline that already passed. So for this year, it doesn't sound like the college itself will be a great opportunity for scholarships, but for the next year, you'd want to get those applications in by February 1st. As I mentioned, there's third-party scholarships. I encourage you to go to fafsa.ed.gov and start your search there if you want to find any third-party scholarships, only because unfortunately, some folks have realized that students really need financial help and have created scams. And so there are some people out there that will charge you money saying that they're helping you apply for or find scholarships, and most of them aren't accurate. You should be able to find free scholarship applications and information. There's also actually a database on the Oregon State University website. You can type into the search bar that you're looking for scholarships. It opens up a whole database. You can search those scholarships by all kinds of different eligibility requirements to see if there's any third-party scholarships available that way. There's a question here that would be a great review. Somebody's curious to know if there are any prerequisites for this program.
No, there aren't. You do have to have a bachelor degree, but there are no other requirements. And a 3.0 GPA, the other requirement. As far as coursework, no.
Thank you so much. This is a great question. Somebody's curious to know if this program is eligible for a staff tuition discount for University of Oregon staff members. And the answer to that, unfortunately, is no. eCampus, because we're a self-sufficient unit, we actually don't get the funding that allows us to offer employees the staff tuition rate that the on-campus classes have. So there is a distance student fee that some employees can apply for, and you can find out more information that on our website, or you can connect with our enrollment services team, which you can reach at ecampus@oregonstate.edu, or you can call us at 800-667-1465. But again, online classes aren't covered under the tuition differential, or excuse me, the tuition discount. Great, we've got a couple more questions. Somebody's curious to know what sort of jobs would be appropriate to apply for after earning this degree.
So on the eCampus website for this degree, there are some examples. This is an interdisciplinary option, and so you will have a pretty wide net that you could look at after graduation. So, for example, research project coordinator positions. You could work at the county or state level within public health departments, consulting work. It's a very, very large array of positions that you could apply for with this degree.
But you mentioned that there's some career information on the eCampus website, and so that would be a great place to get started. I know that if you're on our eCampus website, or if you choose to go there from here, there's actually a section that's labeled careers, and if you click on that, there's all kinds of resources. I always encourage students also to check out what they're finding out on the Bureau of Labor Statistics Occupational Outlook Handbook, and if you actually type into Google BLSOOH, it'll pull up this national database of what kinds of jobs there are. It'll help you find jobs that are in your area, as well as you can narrow your search by what type of degree you have and what kind of jobs would fit within that realm. So that's a really great resource for people who are still trying to decide exactly what it is they want to study before they get started. There's a question on here that's come up a couple of times from a couple of people. Is there a minimum GRE score to be considered for this program?
So no, there is no minimum GRE score. There's no cutoff GRE score. We actually are a small enough program that we will review your application holistically, meaning we will look at every single part of your application. So, your statement of purpose and your resume is just as important as your GRE scores. Faculty will definitely take a look at all the coursework you've completed throughout your academic history, and they'll be paying attention to your letters of recommendation as well. So in short, no, there's no cutoff score for the GRE.
Thank you so much. And just to clarify, it sounds like everything's looked at pretty evenly, so it's not weighted. Thanks. Does this program anticipate only having fall cohorts? Are we only starting on the fall term? Yes.
Yes, since we're a cohort model and students move through the program together, even though there is a full-time and a part-time option, we only start MPH students in the fall.
Thank you so much. So this is a good question. Somebody's curious to know about the acceptance timeline or the selection timeline. Is there a date at which you'll start sending acceptance letters?
So for this year, it's a little off schedule since we extended, normally our final deadline for MPH applications is March 1st, but since we just got our approval for this program at the university level, we weren't allowed to collect applications until we were fully approved. We expect to have decisions out by early July.
Awesome, thank you. So this is interesting. I bet this has happened before. One of the folks who's joining us on the webinar has already begun their application process and did already send a letter of recommendation directly to Oregon State University.
Oh,
yeah.
I'll just scan it in and I will upload it to your file. Don't worry about it.
Thank you. That's great. All right, I'm digging through. I want to make sure that we get questions answered that we can. This is a good question. Somebody's curious to know if they start with a certificate course in public health as a non-degree student and then later decide that they're interested in the master's degree, do you think that those credits would be transferred?
No. So the certificate as it is now doesn't match up with the curriculum of the MPH program. So moving forward, if someone hasn't done the certificate yet, there are a couple of courses that are in the MPH curriculum, and those would transfer. But there are other classes that are part of the certificate and are not part of the MPH online curriculum, and so those would not transfer.
Thank you so much. There's some other questions about transfer credits, and we're going to respond to those questions individually by email because it's fairly complicated to look in the transferability of credits, and there's definitely not just a general answer I can give to everybody that's on the webinar. So if you've posted any other questions about that, wait for an email from us. We should get back to you within 1 business day. Here's a good question. Is there a word count or length guideline for the personal statement?
No, not really. It's however long you want it to be. Some people, I imagine for this program specifically, will have a lot to talk about, like with your academic and work histories. Feel free to write as much as you want to. Most people, at least, well, I don't know for this program since we're just now collecting the first batch of applications, but most people for the MPH personal statements that we've seen in previous years for the on-campus program submit about 1 to 2 pages.
Thank you. When we're talking about the internship requirement for this program, can you share a little bit about how that might work for a student that's working full-time, or if there's a possibility to maybe just complete an internship in a summer term or something like that?
Yeah, so the internship is 6 credit hours, which equates to 200 working hours. And so for the most part, students will do that in 1 term, which equates to about 20 hours per week for 10 weeks. However, it is possible to split that up into 2 consecutive terms. So you could do three credits and then 3 credits, which would be 10 hours per week for 10 weeks over each term. So that's something that you can talk with Andy Chenard about. He's our MPH internship coordinator. So if you have more specific questions about the scenario that you have that you're kind of thinking about, you're welcome to contact him. I believe his email address is on the website, or you can contact either of us, Amanda or Susanna, and we would be happy to get you in touch with Andy.
Thank you so much. And I feel like I should share this, that there is actually a requirement that's come down through the Straight Reciprocity Agreement that states that online learners are not allowed to complete internships in Massachusetts right now. So all that means is it doesn't matter where you live or where you're studying. It just means if you're online, you can actually complete your internship within that state. So anywhere outside of that state, you're good to go. It's my little disclaimer that I have to throw in really quickly. There's another really good question here. Somebody's curious to hear more about what are the benefits of earning this degree versus just working in this career and working yourself up?
There are certainly, there are jobs that you really need an MPH in order to get your foot in the door. And so it might be that the career trajectory that you are on, you don't need an MPH. That's something you should really consider. What we usually suggest is for people to go look at their dream jobs online and see what they require. Do they require an MPH or not? We know it's quite an investment, and so if for what you want to do, you don't need to do an MPH, we don't recommend that you do it, but it absolutely opens doors as far as moving up in your career within public health.
Thank you. It sounds like there's some folks who are really curious to hear more about the internship. So I'm not sure if these are going to be questions best handled by Andy, and if that's the case, we can forward all of these questions to him for an individual response. But I'm going to list a couple in case you can handle them here. Is it possible to do your internship at your current place of employment?
Yes, but there are limitations to that. So, well, first I want to just make sure that I say that every internship experience has to be approved by Andy because it is part of the curriculum. So he has to make sure that the experience is going to meet the competencies that are outlined for the internship. So with that said, yes, you can do it at your place of work. However, it has to be completely different from your job. It can't tie in whatsoever. And your preceptor, who is the person who will oversee your internship, cannot be your boss.
Awesome, thank you. Those are great guidelines to keep in mind. All right, it looks like the questions are slowing down. I want to thank Amanda and Susanna for coming here today to talk to us and to talk to all of you about this new program that's launching for fall. As I mentioned, if there's any additional questions from here on out, or if we were unable to get to your question during the webinar, you will be receiving an email from us by the end of the business day tomorrow. And don't forget that there are some handouts sitting in that section of your panel for this webinar. Those handouts do include some information about the courses, more detailed information about the SOFIS application, as well as some resources for you to follow up with. If you have any additional questions as you're moving forward, you can connect with us here at eCampus. Again, we're at eCampus@oregonstate.edu. You can call us at 800-667-1465. If we're not sure how to answer your question, we are very sure about how to get your question answered. So we'll be able to point you in the right direction. Thank you all for joining us.